All right, here we go. All right, I apologize for the laughter. This is James with My Home Electrician, where we believe that success is a symptom of good relationships. Here working with Robert, who's handling the camera. Just want to walk you through a job that some days you just can't help but laugh because it really just does not go according to plan. It's really rare. We focus huge on the planning and at the same time also staying adaptable. And it's been a few years since we've had a very adaptable moment. And today was one of those moments. So here's what happened. We had a house that we went to, a week or two ago. This is their house, client's house. House had been heavily remodeled prior to him buying it. He bought it, noticed that there were a lot of lights flickering. Maybe this has happened to you. You noticed that occasionally, for him anyway, when he ran his dryer, ran his microwave, when the AC kicked on, when the heater kicked on, it wasn't just dimming down before coming back up. It would continue to flicker constantly and wouldn't go away. And so he called us out. I think we were the third or fourth electrician to get out here and take a look at this. And he had heard everything from you need to rewire your entire house. It's going to be tens of thousands of dollars, all the way to like, let's just rerun some stuff. So we kind of showed up initially, superheroes, usual, working magic, and it's all voodoo. And so we go through the house, we get a meter on everything and check it out, and we realize that there's issues that are probably stemming from the main panel or the main service. So what is the main service? Well, follow me here. This is your main service. Okay, this big, cool, pretty box that we've got that's now gray and not green anymore. We'll explain what happened. And that goes up to this mast right here, and it goes overhead and goes all the way down this big overhead line to the pole. Your house might have something like that, or it may have something where the power is coming from underground and you have a pipe that's coming up. In Texas here, we have both. We have houses that are both what are called underground fed and a conduit that go back to a big green box called a transformer, big gray box, or they're going up to a mast and they're going overhead to one of those big gray cylinders that's a transformer that's mounted to a pole. So in process of getting everything changed out, we realized that the wiring they had ran open wiring inside of the wall. What does that mean? Open wiring meaning that they ran wire that was intended to be protected inside of a pipe or inside of what we call conduit in the trade. And they did not do it. And so we had to tear all that out and try and find a way to financially meet the client in the middle, which we did. Client is super happy and happy we found this stuff because they had a screw that was going through the edge of the wire. They had stuff that was getting bit into. What does that mean? That means fire risk. When we opened the meter box and we had the utility company come out, since I can't, for the record, go into a meter box. This is a meter box, the box that holds your electrical meter. It has this cool tag on it that's put on there by the utility company. Yours might be a different color, but you get the idea. If you cut this or go into this, or if I go into this, there's a pretty hefty fine that's been associated with it. You are not allowed, it's called an anti-tamper tag, is what they call it here. It might be different where you are, but we're not allowed in this box. So we had the utility company that we got a good relationship with. They came out and with all the permitting and everything else, they got that cut. They let us look inside. And it turns out that the original work was unpermitted, was done by somebody who was not licensed. The wiring was too short and wasn't even secured underneath what are called lugs. They're really big terminals that we have to tighten down everything underneath. The wires get pinched inside of these areas. And so they weren't even landed under the screws. They were just sitting there. And they had a whole bunch of burning on them. And in the process of even trying to loosen them and get them out, the meter actually crumbled apart from the overheating that was inside the meter box. Obviously, this changes things a lot because we were already halfway through our day. So we rapidly adjusted fire and adapted. Thank you, shout out to Robert for being patient with me. Since as an owner, I can be a little manic at times when things don't go my way. And so we raced out to the supply shop. We got a new meter. We got a new hub for on top, so it attached to the existing well. It works within, Robert, come on around and take a look at this. We were able to get it to fit into exactly the same space and reseal everything, cut it, get it detached. The original wasn't even secured or mounted, and it's supposed to be strapped in there, and it wasn't. So we got it secured, did it with the overhead line attached, which you don't even know how much of a miracle that is. There's a lot of tension on that cable that just wants to pull that loose and rip up the soffit of your house. So we got that all safely taken out. We got all the wiring replaced with the correct wiring that's been protected inside the house. We got that reconnected to the house. We got the new meter base set at the drop of a hat, got that put in, and then resealed everything. In the middle of it, we realized, if you look here, they ran the incorrect grounding for their secondary or supplemental grounds. Code book calls it supplemental. What that is basically it's a backup for your original safety system. Your grounding system is what makes your entire house safe. Without it, breakers wouldn't trip, they wouldn't do what they're supposed to do, and they would cause a fire. So we have a ground wire system or a bonding wire. We'll talk about that a little later, the difference between grounding and bonding, and I'll bore you to tears with that. But for now, just know that it was completely the wrong size for being able to protect the house correctly. On top of that, the original rods, if you look down here, these cool rods, you see there's two of them. The reason there's two of them is because the first one, somebody in their infinite wisdom, when they DIY'd this, decided that it was too difficult to drive this 8-foot long steel rod into the ground, which it is. It's really difficult to do. It's 8 feet long and 5/8 in diameter. It's a monster to get driven in the ground. But the minute it got too difficult, they decided that they were just going to take a saw and cut it off wherever it got hard. They had another wire that was here that they insisted was for a ground, and when I went to go pull on it, it just pulled out of the ground. It was just sitting in the dirt this deep. It's supposed to be 8 feet long for a reason. The reason why is it's supposed to take any extra current from your house that hits it, whether it be from lightning, from the utility company having a power surge, any uneven current or unbalanced current in your house. It's supposed to have a path back out to the literal dirt. That's why we call it a ground. In fact, over in Europe, they're even more direct. They refer to it as earthing. It's not even grounding. So we call it grounding, they call it earthing, same idea. Give it a path back to the dirt, back to the earth. So we got that resolved. We ran the extra wire, got that ran into the main panel. You'll notice a couple things are going to be missing from this, from any guys that are electricians that are looking at this and saying, hey, where's your disconnect? Where's your other things? This is a as-is condition for when this was built. We didn't add anything to the house. We didn't take away anything from the house. All we did was direct replacement. And for our jurisdiction and where we are with the city, what they required, as well as the utility company, what they needed to see, they were willing to not require us to fully update everything in this house to at least get this safe, because we were able to apply for what most cities refer to as financial hardship. The idea that basically the 100% right answer of bringing this 70-year-old home all the way up to current standard would be tens of thousands of dollars to do, and this client is not prepared to do that. Okay, so we don't ever want to put a client, one of our clients, we don't want to ever put them in a situation where we are putting them in a never-ending money pit hole where it's just one thing after another. At some point, you need to have a cutoff point, which is what we do. We find a really good cutoff point that meets the safety requirement, and then what we do is we provide an estimate and recommendations and bring about the truth on, like, hey, here's the real world potential and what could happen if you don't do these safety upgrades at some point. Our primary focus on just this trip ended up turning into more, but the primary was, cool, let's make sure that the power from the utility company into the house is solid, is safe and correct. Let's make sure that our primary safeties, our primary water bonding systems inside and our secondary backup safety systems for grounding are good. And let's make sure that our breakers, or what the code calls overcurrent protection device, make sure that all the breakers, or all those little things that have switches in your main panel, that big box, it's got what looks like light switch toggles or toggle light switches in it. Make sure all of those are tightened up and they're all doing their job, with the idea being that until they're ready to tackle all these upgrades and all these changes that need to happen for safety, at least their current system will function correctly. So that way, if there's an issue with wiring that's in the house, if there's an issue with what the previous contractors have done, at least a breaker will function correctly and it will trip and de-energize that circuit and not allow it to continue being a fire hazard. At least that's the intent. So that's where we're at. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Look forward to any comments, questions, changes, different ways that you've tackled this. There might be some other ways contractors, if you get on here, or people who've seen their contractor do something different, whether it's a different state, whether it's a different jurisdiction. I know it's all the same code book. It's a federal code book, but there's a lot of different amendments to that are city changes or additions, ways they chose to exceed code. throw those comments in there. Throw things even in there that you're like, hey, why didn't you do this? Or why is this? I look forward to it. It's all great. So until then, again, this is James Adams with My Home Electrician, where we believe that success is a symptom of good relationships. Hope you have a great day. Bye.